Please welcome on stage Arantxa Gonzalez, who is the host of our next discussion, as well as High Representative Borrell and Prime Minister Costa, please.
This session with the incoming President of the European Council, Antonio Costa, former Prime Minister of Portugal, and the outgoing High Representative, Josep Borrell. My name is Arantxa Gonzalez. For the purposes of this discussion, I am a concerned European, one that has huge hopes, big expectations, a problem with the mic, a problem with the mic. Here we are. We're done. That is obviously living in hope, but seeing weakened Europe, weakened outside, but also, more importantly, weakened inside. We're going to be discussing about all of this, which are the geopolitical challenges of the European Union. We have 30 minutes to unpack this conversation, so you will bear with me if we don't get to all the details you wanted to hear. Let me start with a first question to Josep Borrell. How does the EU prepare for a Trump II administration, especially concerning Ukraine? We've seen lots of very interesting feelings from Europeans and Ukrainians themselves. The future of Europe, and I think is the right way to do it, is tied to Ukraine. What do we do how do we respond to a possible Trump II administration?
Good question. Well, Trump says that he knows how to end the war in 1 week. Yesterday, President Zelensky asked him publicly, which is this secret recipe. Prime Minister Orban went to see Zelensky also yesterday, and they talk about the war. Well, Prime Minister Orban doesn't represent the European Union, even if it is the rotatory president of the Council, because it's foreign affairs. And in foreign affairs is the president of the European Union Council who represents the European Union. But it's clear that without the support of the US, it's going to be very difficult to continue arming Ukraine. And it's clear that at least until now, at the European Union, the official doctrine is to do whatever it takes and for how long it takes in order to support Ukraine. So let's hope first that this hypothesis will not be the reality. And secondly, will the Europeans be able to continue supporting Ukraine militarily even if the US doesn't? Certainly difficult, not impossible. But is there the political will? I have some doubts.
Antonio, we're not going to put you on the spot. You're the president-elect, and we want you to be a long-lasting and very strong president of the European Council. But if we take what Ivan was telling us about the members of the Russian Politburo, Soviet Politburo, discussing agriculture when their ship was sinking, what do you think Europe should be putting on the priority list as regards its own geopolitical strength? What should we be focusing on?
Thank you very much for this invitation. I'm very honored to share the stage with my old friend Pepe Borrell and with you, Arantxa. I'm in a very tricky position because I'm not enjoying fully my freedom as citizen, private citizen, and I'm not yet the president of the council. Then I will be here in the listening mode to take advantage for the experience and knowledge of this very high level of assistance. But last week, the European Council approved the strategic agenda for the next 5 years, and this is our roadmap for the next 5 years. And the priorities are very clear. Namely on safety and security for Europe. And that means that the first is the knowledge that the invasion of Ukraine from Russia is an attack on our own freedom and our democracy. Then we need to stand supporting Ukraine on defense of his independence, his sovereignty, the integrity of his territory within the international recognized borders. Second, that means that we need to ensuring the safety and the security of the European by, namely, increase our budget capacity to dismiss our strategic dependence, to enable our own capacities, and to lead what we need in this to strengthen our technological and industrial basis. In the third, we need to look for enlargement, not only by moral imperative, but also as a geostrategic investment on peace, on stability, and on prosperity. And finally, and it's something that it's very, very close to Pepe, is we need to strengthen our relations and find and promote friendship in the other parts of the world and diversify our relations. The world is not only United States, China. The worlds have been enlarged last years. We are smaller than before, and we need to find partners, allies like UK, allies like United States, but friends in India, in South Korea, in Japan, in Australia, in New Zealand, in Latin America, and in Africa. Then, I think that the European leaders last week doesn't discuss agriculture policy, but they approve a very important and strategic agenda for the next 5 years. Then we need to put on track this and start from the very beginning, work as a team to put on track this strategic agenda.
So even when you write your memoirs, you will write that the European Union member states were discussing the right issues at that crucial point. Let me turn to Pepe. What are the two lessons?
Normally, we are good to discuss.
We're going to do. We're going to do. What are the two lessons that you leave Antonio with as your parting message? What are the two big lessons that you take from this period that you have faced, where you have seen withdrawal of the US from Syria, from Afghanistan, COVID, Ukraine's invasion, trouble again in the Middle East? What are the two parting messages that you will put in your note to Antonio?
First, you are the representative of the European Union for foreign and security policy. You are, no one else.
I will be. Now it's Charles Michel.
Well, you are. You will be. And my advice is to make it clear from the first moment. You are, according with Article 15 of the treaty, the highest representative of the Union in the world with respect to the foreign and security policy, without prejudice of the competences of the High Representative. The Commission is the representative of the European Union, with exception, clearly set in the treaty, with the exception of foreign and security policy, Article 17. This has to be clear from the first moment. And secondly, without unity, the European Union is irrelevant. We have been very important in the fight against, on the support of Ukraine, on fighting against Russia. We are irrelevant on the Middle East, apart from providing humanitarian support, which is good, certainly, but not enough. Our division in front of the Gaza conflict makes us not to be an actor. And our unity until now on supporting Ukraine against the Russian invasion has made us an important actor in this conflict. When we lose unity, the European Union is not taken into consideration. Today, the unity is fully jeopardized on foreign policy by one member state who's opposing to everything. All the statements that they wanted to issue in the last month about almost everything, and in particular about the war in Ukraine and in Gaza, has not been by unanimity because one was missing. This will be for you the most important and difficult challenging. But please, from the first day, you are the representative of the European Union for foreign and security policy.
So let's talk about that unity. Let's talk about that unity, because it may just not be one. We've got a number of forces in member states. In the past, they wanted to exit the EU. Now they want to change the EU from within. We are not sure that the result will not end up being the same, which is weakening the ability of the EU to stand geopolitically, to have a stand internationally. So how do we deal with that? That's to you, Antonio, because this is this will be your...
Well, I took note for Pepe advice.
You better do.
Well, and I think the first mission of the President of the Council is to keep the unity among the 27 member states. It's not easy, because what is passionate in the European Union is our diversity. And diversity is not only because we speak different languages. We have different stories, we are on different geographical realities, and we shape our vision of the world from our own geographical position. And that's why it's so passionate to build this unity among the 27. Secondly, we need work together, the different institutions. The treaty is clear, it's a Lisbon treaty, the Treaty of Lisbon, and naturally is a very good treaty, but we need to put the treaty on march. And that means we need to have a good spirit to work together, to build and to act as a team. Because we don't have foreign policy without head of development, without trade policy. And we don't have trade policy without a clear vision about what is our standard relation. Then we need to have a very close cooperation between the President of the Council, the IREP, the President of the European Commission, and we have the advantage to learn from the lessons And this is a good start point.
So, Giuseppe, your biggest achievement and your biggest regret?
Achievements, I don't know. Regret, clearly, not being able to influence Netanyahu government in order to avoid what's happening in Gaza. Is certainly my biggest regret. Achievement, well.
Say a few achievements, come on.
Oh, come on. On Sunday after the invasion of Russia, when I took the phone and I started calling my colleagues saying, why don't we use the European Peace Facility to provide arms to Ukraine? Oh, it has never been done. Well, maybe it has never been done, but that's the time to do. And my miracle, I managed, it was Sunday afternoon from my house in Madrid, I managed to get unanimity on using the European Peace Facility to provide, to buy and to support military Ukraine. It was a big breakthrough. And well, I think it's something that changed the political landscape of the European Union, doing something new in front of this awful situation of Ukraine being invaded. But the regret, because the frustration even, is the fact that in front of the military answer to the terrific attacks of Hamas, first of all, I have to start condemning the terrorist attack of Hamas, how not, no? But the fact that almost 40,000 people has been killed in Gaza, many of them women and children, and the international community, starting by the European Union, has not been able to look for a ceasefire that could allow for the freedom of hostages, the stop of the hostilities, and start thinking on the political solution, and that for how many months we have been asking the Netanyahu government not to do what they're doing. It is for me the biggest frustration and the biggest example that when the European Union is divided, it's not able to fulfill the role of a geopolitical actor as we pretend to be.
So, Antonio, you mentioned the importance of looking beyond the US and China, looking at other parts of the world, in particular the continent next to Europe called Africa. What's our elevator pitch to Africa? Because they have a lot of choices today, rightly. They can go to different doors, they can knock at different doors. What could the EU door offer that others are not offering?
Well, we have a historical relation with Africa, with bright sides and dark sides. And, but we have a very special relation of common understanding, of common knowledge, and this is what is different from us if we compare with others. And then we need to build this relation on this special capacity to understand and to be understood by Africans. Of course, we have the great advantage of our to be the closest continent to Africa, and we have the closest links to Africa. We can look for migration. It's certainly a challenge, but it's also a great opportunity to have and to strengthen our relation with Africa. We have an economic presence in Africa completely different than the others. And we are not only there by raw materials, but we are in Africa, the different European companies, building also those countries. And, but we need deliver more, because during these years we have overpromised and under-deliver, and we can do more. And I think we have we have room to increase our relationship, and I I don't know what is the Pepe experience, but I look and what I think is they want to increase our effective relation with Europe. But sometimes they think that some Europeans don't understand what is Africa, and they need to understand that we are understanding them.
Most of the Europeans still look at Africa through the lenses of migration. Africa is where the migrants come from. Africa is demographic booming. Africa is a threat because we will be invaded, and these poor people who are dying, trying to reach European shores or in the middle of the desert. We look at Africa too much as a threat, a demographic threat. And we don't understand the immense potential that this continent has. And the public's opinion and some governments want to deal with Africa with a mentality of walls. Walls, not openness, not engagement, not more support, not more readiness to participate on a big development efforts, not on the old development aid procedures, but engaging on development. We still think of Africa, a demographic boom, which represents a threat for the cohesion of our societies. And this is a completely wrong approach. And with this mental setting, it's very difficult to engage with Africa.
Pepe, let's look at China for a moment. What would you have done differently 5 years later? Is there something you would have changed in the way you interacted with China?
Well, the interaction with China has been mainly from the economic dimension of the external relations, as the President of the European Council in some month from now has been said clearly. Foreign policy is not a clear subject, has borders with trade, has borders with economic security. It's not this is foreign policy and this is not foreign policy. It's a mixture between foreign policy and external relations. And it has been mainly driven by economic relations. Maybe we should have taken note earlier, much earlier, that China was investing on the critical sectors of the future, and we were not. Maybe we should have taken fully awareness that the competitivity capacity of China on new materials, on electric cars, was being prepared for years by the Chinese authorities, because this overwhelming capacity of production on the field of electric cars, for example, has not been created overnight. It has been the result of a policy which has been implemented silently for years. And we were not aware of that. We were discussing about the relations based on the past more than in the future. And suddenly we realized that we have been escaping dependencies from Russia from the hydrocarbon and creating, maintaining, or increasing dependencies on China on the sectors of the future, not only the production, but the raw materials, not only in solar panel, but on the critical materials. And this is something that we have discovered recently. I think that we have been following a little bit the American approach of trade barriers or trade limitations based on the past mentality of the trade, which was how do we deal with cheap products produced by cheap labor, and not the technological dimension that today represents China. And now we suddenly realize it. And how to deal with it is going to be very difficult because it should have been done several years ago.
Antonio, you mentioned that enlargement is certainly one of the 3 priorities for the upcoming period, and we all know and we all repeat that enlargement is today a geopolitical imperative. But how do we make this geopolitical imperative politically palatable for the European Union member states? What do we need to do differently
Well, first of all, I think it's very important that now everybody is aware then that the issue is not only the candidacy countries need to fulfill the Copenhagen criteria, but we need to then ourselves, our work to prepare the Union to welcome these 7, 8, 9 new member states. And they are not only 9 member states, they are 9 member states with very specific characteristics by his dimension, like Ukraine, or by the regional problems they have bilaterally, especially in the Western Balkans. And for me, it's clear we need to work at the same time on the negotiations with the coming countries, but we need at the same time to prepare our union by reforming our institutions and our financial framework. If not, the new enlargement, it will be very difficult to become a great success as the precedent enlargements has been. Our own experience in Spain and Portugal, the eastern countries, all of these enlargements have been great success. And we have the responsibility to ensure that the next enlargement will be again, a very great success for those countries who are entering in the European Union and also for the European Union. And for that, we need to reform ourselves. For me, it's very clear, and it's very positive that when we say this 1 year ago, a lot of people say, they don't want enlargement. Now everybody understands the success of the enlargement depends on our capacity to reform ourselves.
So final question to Pepe. What is the hottest potato that you're leaving on your desk to Kaja Kallas?
Well, there are several. It's a potato salad more than a single one. For me, the hottest is the Middle East. Here, there, the European Union is playing its credibility. The credibility of the European Union defending human rights and defending international law can be one of the victims of the gas attack. The honor of the European Union can be below the ruins of Gaza. I think that to clearly show the world that the lives matters, be that in Ukraine or in Gaza, it's one of the most important political endeavors of the European Union. And then when we say that cutting water, electricity, and food to the civil population is a war crime, when we talk about Ukraine, the same words has to be used when we talk about Gaza. And this is not the case. This is not the case. And I frankly think that it's more than thinking of what happened during the Holocaust 70 years ago. It's looking about the future. Because my experience, talking with everybody around the world, from South Africa to Southeast Asia, to Latin America, to Africa, is that we are going to be judged in our capacity to defend the basic principles and the values that we proclaim guide our action by the way we will be performing in front of this wall.
Thank you, Antonio. Last question to you. What's your biggest expectation as you come into this job? What's the light that is guiding you?
Well, don't have a lot of hot potatoes on the table. And, well, to strengthen the unity among the 27 member states, to stabilize good relations between institutions, and the capacity to put on track our strategic agenda, because the time we are living very challenging times, and we should deliver, because we have lived the last years very, very, very tough moments with COVID, with war, and the truth is we have overcome these difficult moments. But now we have very existential threats in the short term in Ukraine, in the large term with climate change, and we need to focus on deliver.
So on behalf of the ECFR family, thank you very much, Pepe, for these 5 years of very hard work, not an easy one. And on behalf of the ECR family, Antonio, welcome to hell. We're going to be there with you in the next 5 years. Big applause to you too.